I saw my girlfriend's diary left open. What I read changed everything. I took photos and packed my bags and left. 3 days later, she walked into my empty apartment screaming my name. I, 31M, never meant to read it. That's the first thing I need to say because what happened after changed the entire trajectory of my life, and I need people to understand that I'm not the kind of person who goes through someone's private things. But that Tuesday afternoon, when I came home early from work with a splitting migraine, her diary was sitting open on our coffee table, pages spread wide like an invitation I never asked for. We'd been together for 4 years, living together for 2. I thought I knew everything about her. The way she took her coffee, how she hummed while cooking, the small scar on her left knee from a childhood bike accident. I thought we were building something real, something permanent. I was saving for a ring. Had been for 8 months. The apartment was silent when I walked in. She worked late on Tuesdays, wouldn't be home until 9. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, kicked off my shoes, and headed to the kitchen for water and aspirin. That's when I saw it on my way back, the small leather journal she'd been writing in every night for the past year. She always closed it when I entered the room, always tucked it away in her nightstand drawer. I'd never questioned it. Everyone deserves privacy. But it was open, and I saw my name. I stood there for a full minute, staring at those pages, telling myself to walk away. My head was pounding. I should have gone to bed. Should have taken my medication and closed my eyes. Instead, I sat down on the couch and started reading the page that was facing up. The entry was dated 3 days prior. She wrote about how exhausting it was keeping up the charade, how much longer she thought she could maintain the performance before I figured things out. She mentioned him, no name, just him, and how different she felt when they were together. How alive, how free. She wrote about the apartment we shared feeling like a cage, about me feeling like an obligation she couldn't shake. My hands started trembling. I flipped back a page, then another, then another. 6 months. For 6 months, she'd been documenting her double life in meticulous detail. The dates they met, the hotels, the lies she told me. She rated our intimate moments versus theirs, actual numerical ratings, like she was reviewing products online. I scored consistently lower. She wrote about how I was stable, reliable, good for her future, but that he made her feel things I never could. She mentioned my promotion at work and how it meant we could afford a better place, maybe start thinking about marriage. That's when I understood. I wasn't her partner. I was her safety net. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. Every page, every word. My hands shook so badly that some came out blurry, but I made sure to get clear shots of the most damning entries. The ones where she detailed their encounters, the ones where she mocked things I told her in confidence, the ones where she calculated how much longer she needed to string me along before she had enough, saved to leave comfortably. There was an entry from 2 weeks ago where she wrote about me mentioning the ring. She actually laughed. She wrote LOL in the margins and said she'd have to play it perfectly to get me to propose before her lease on me ran out. She wanted the engagement photos for social media, the validation from friends and family, and then she'd figure out how to back out before the actual wedding. I took photos for 20 minutes straight, documented everything. Then I carefully placed the diary exactly as I'd found it, pages open to the same spot, angled the same way. My migraine was gone, replaced by something cold and clarifying. I went into our bedroom and pulled my large suitcase from the closet. I packed methodically, clothes, toiletries, laptop, important documents, the watch my grandfather left me. I took only what was mine, nothing we'd bought together. I cleared out my dresser drawers, my side of the closet, my desk in the corner of the living room. Every trace of me, removed. I called my best friend and asked if I could crash at his place for a while. He asked what happened, and I told him I'd explain later, but I needed to leave immediately. He said his door was open. I boxed up my books, my guitar, the small collection of vinyl records I'd been building since college. I wrapped my framed photos, not the ones of us, just the ones of my family, my friends from before her. I loaded everything into my car in 3 trips, working quickly, efficiently, like I was defusing a bomb. Before I left, I did 2 things. First, I transferred exactly half of our shared savings account into my personal account, money I'd contributed more than half of anyway. Second, I sent an email to our landlord explaining that I was vacating the apartment and removing my name from the lease immediately, effective that day. I attached a copy of the lease and formally released myself from any future obligation. I'd paid through the end of the month. After that, she'd be responsible for the full rent. I left my key on the kitchen counter. Didn't leave a note. Didn't need to. It was 7:30 when I pulled out of the parking lot. She'd be home in 90 minutes, walking into an apartment that would tell her everything she needed to know. I drove to my friend's place across town, hauled my stuff up to his spare room, and collapsed onto the bed. He brought me a beer and sat in the doorway, waiting. I showed him the photos, watched his face change from confused to disgusted to angry on my behalf. He asked what I was going to do. I told him I was going to disappear. Not forever, but long enough to let the message sink in. No confrontation, no dramatic scene, no chance for her to manipulate the narrative or talk her way out of it. Just gone. That first night, I turned off my phone. Didn't want to see the messages I knew would come. I slept poorly, dreams filled with fragments of her handwriting. Those ratings, those cruel observations she'd made about someone she claimed to love. Update 1. I kept my phone off for 3 days. My friend said I'd handled it with more grace than most people would have managed, but grace wasn't what I was feeling. I was feeling calculated. Cold. I wanted her to sit in that empty apartment and understand that actions have consequences, that people aren't infinite resources you can drain while planning your exit strategy. On day 3, I finally turned my phone back on. 147 messages, 63 missed calls, 17 voicemails. The progression was fascinating in a clinical, detached way. The first messages, sent around 9:45 that Tuesday night, were confused. She was asking where I was, if I was okay, why my stuff was gone. She sounded worried. By midnight, the tone shifted to panic. She was calling repeatedly, texting in all caps, asking if something had happened to me, if I was hurt, if I needed help. She messaged my friend. He'd blocked her immediately and apparently tried calling my mom, who I'd already warned about the situation. Day 2, the messages turned angry. She demanded to know what kind of childish game I was playing, disappearing without explanation, taking my things like a coward, emptying our savings account, she noticed. She called me selfish, immature, cruel. She said I owed her a conversation, that you don't just abandon someone you've been with for 4 years without even the basic respect of an explanation. The lack of self-awareness was astounding. By day 3, she'd cycled back to desperate. She was apologizing. For what? She didn't specify, which told me she didn't actually know what I knew. She was begging me to come home, to talk to her, to let her fix whatever had gone wrong. She said she loved me, that we could work through anything, that she was scared. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I spent those 3 days getting my life in order. I opened a new bank account and had my paycheck redirected. I changed my passwords on every shared streaming service, every app, everything. I called my credit card company and removed her as an authorized user. I updated my emergency contacts at work. I called a lawyer and asked about my options, about whether shared cohabitation gave her any claim to my possessions or future earnings. It didn't. We weren't married. Nothing was legally binding except that lease I'd already extracted myself from. My friend let me stay as long as I needed. He worked from home, so he was there most days, running interference on the few times she tried to show up at his building. Building security kept her in the lobby. On the 4th day, Thursday afternoon, I was sitting in his living room working on my laptop when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. It was the police. Non-emergency line. An officer explained that a young woman had filed a welfare check request, claiming her boyfriend had gone missing without warning, that his belongings were gone, and she feared he might be in danger or planning to harm himself. I appreciated the officer's professionalism. I assured him I was fine, perfectly safe, and had left my previous residence of my own free will. I explained that I was not in a mental health crisis, had no intention of self-harm, and was simply ending a relationship. He asked if I wanted to make a statement about harassment. I said not at this time, but I appreciated the option. After I hung up, I felt something shift. She'd tried to weaponize the authorities to find me, to force a confrontation. That's when I realized I needed to protect myself more formally. I composed a single message. Short, clear, legal. I informed her that our relationship was over. I requested no further contact via phone, text, email, social media, or in person. I stated that I had documented evidence of behavior that led to my decision and that continued harassment would force me to pursue legal remedies, including a restraining order. I explained that all shared financial accounts had been divided fairly, All shared property had been handled according to what each person brought into the relationship, and the lease had been modified per legal requirements. I sent it from my email, not my phone. Created a paper trail. Then I blocked her number. Blocked her on every platform. Created a new social media account under a variation of my name that she wouldn't easily find. Friday morning, my friend got a call from our old building's security. She'd shown up at the apartment building, somehow gotten past the front desk, and was in the hallway outside our old apartment screaming my name. A neighbor had complained about the noise. Security escorted her out and told her she'd be banned from the property if she returned and caused another disturbance. The landlord called me too, asking what was happening, whether there was going to be ongoing drama. I explained the situation calmly, told him I'd fulfilled my obligations and was no longer a tenant, and that any issues with the current tenant were between him and her. He wasn't happy, but he couldn't pin it on me. Update 2. It's been 3 weeks now. The constant messages finally stopped about 10 days ago, after my lawyer sent a formal cease and desist letter. Apparently that was the reality check she needed. Seeing legal letterhead made her understand I wasn't coming back, wasn't going to engage, wasn't going to give her the confrontation or closure she thought she deserved. My mom told me she showed up at my parents' house one Sunday, drove 40 minutes out to the suburbs, knocked on their door, and tried to explain that there had been a terrible misunderstanding, that I'd gotten the wrong idea about something, that she needed my mother's help to reach me. My mom, bless her, told her that I was an adult who made his own decisions, that she trusted my judgment, and that she needed to leave their property. When she didn't leave immediately, my dad came to the door and said he'd call the police if she wasn't in her car in 60 seconds. She left. She tried a different approach after that. Started posting on social media about heartbreak, about betrayal, about cruel men who abandon their partners without explanation. Mutual friends started reaching out to me, confused, asking what happened. Some were genuinely concerned. Others were clearly fishing for gossip. I'd prepared for this. I didn't share the diary photos. That felt like a violation even though she'd violated me first, but I did send a brief, factual statement to the friends who directly asked. I explained that I discovered she'd been unfaithful and had been planning to end our relationship once she'd extracted maximum financial benefit from it. I said I chose to leave quietly rather than create drama, and that her current public campaign was an attempt to control a narrative she'd already written herself in private. I offered to provide proof if needed. Most people didn't ask for it. The ones who knew her well enough seemed to understand without needing documentation. 2 friends admitted they'd suspected something was off. One said she'd seen her with someone else months ago at a restaurant downtown, but didn't want to get involved in our relationship. Another said she'd caught her in several lies about where she'd been on specific nights. They felt guilty for not telling me. I told them it wasn't their responsibility to police my relationship. The friends who took her side? I let them go. If they believed I was the villain in this story without asking for my perspective, they weren't people I needed in my life. Work became my sanctuary. I threw myself into projects, volunteered for assignments, stayed late. My manager noticed the increased productivity and asked if everything was okay at home. I gave him the abbreviated version, ended a long-term relationship, moved out, focusing on work while I figured out next steps. He was supportive, told me to take time off if I needed it, but I told him staying busy was better for me right now. I started therapy, found someone who specialized in relationship trauma and betrayal. Spent an hour every week unpacking not just what she did, but why I didn't see it coming, what red flags I'd ignored or rationalized. My therapist helped me understand that the person I'd been in a relationship with wasn't real. She was a performance, carefully maintained, designed to extract resources and stability while she pursued what she actually wanted elsewhere. The anger faded into something else. Not forgiveness. I don't think I'll ever forgive the calculated cruelty of it, but a kind of detached understanding. She was a person capable of compartmentalizing her life to an extraordinary degree, capable of maintaining 2 entirely separate versions of herself. That takes a specific kind of psychological makeup that I'll never fully comprehend. My friend asked me once if I regretted reading the diary, if I wished I'd stayed ignorant, let it play out however it was going to play out. I told him no. I regretted the time I'd already wasted, but reading it gave me the clarity to leave on my terms, not hers. She'd written the script for her exit strategy. I just executed it first. Update 3. 2 months out. and life has stabilized into something I didn't expect. Better. Not just different, but genuinely better. I found my own place. Small one-bedroom, hardwood floors, good light. It's mine. No shared history, no ghosts in the corners, no furniture we picked out together. I bought a new mattress, new sheets, cooked my first meal in the kitchen while playing music too loud. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted away from during the relationship. Guys from college, coworkers I'd kept at arm's length because I was always rushing home to her. Started playing basketball on Thursday nights, joined a weekly poker game, said yes to invitations I'd have previously declined because we had plans that usually meant sitting on the couch watching her scroll through her phone while I pretended we were spending quality time together. The clarity that comes with distance is remarkable. I started remembering all the small moments I'd dismissed or explained away. The time she was unreachable for hours, the sudden work emergencies that required her immediate departure, the way she'd pick fights right before I suggested plans that would involve her meeting my extended family or work colleagues. She'd been compartmentalizing me the entire time, keeping me separate from whatever life she was building elsewhere. My therapist asked me what I'd learned from all of this. I told her I'd learned that silence can be more powerful than confrontation, that walking away doesn't make you weak, and that some people are only honest when they think no one's watching. I'd learned that I deserve someone who doesn't need a diary to process their secret contempt for me. I'd learned that stability and boring reliability aren't character flaws. They're gifts I should only offer to people who value them. Last week, I heard through a mutual friend that she'd moved back in with her parents. Couldn't afford the apartment on her own. Couldn't find a roommate willing to deal with her chaos. The friend said she was playing victim hard, telling anyone who'd listen about her heartless ex-boyfriend who abandoned her without warning, but that most people were getting tired of the story. I felt nothing when I heard it. Not satisfaction, not vindication, not even residual anger. Just nothing. That's how I knew I was actually healing. Someone at work asked me recently if I was dating yet, if I was ready to get back out there. I told her not yet, but soon. I'm rediscovering who I am outside of that relationship, what I actually like versus what I pretended to like to maintain peace. Turns out I don't really enjoy those art house films she insisted we watch every weekend. Turns out I actually like cooking when I'm doing it for myself, not performing domestic partnership for someone documenting my inadequacies in leather-bound journals. I still have the photos, backed up in 3 separate locations. I haven't looked at them since that first night, don't plan to unless I need them legally. They exist as insurance, as proof that I'm not crazy, that what happened actually happened the way I remember it. My therapist says I might want to delete them eventually, let go of the evidence as part of letting go of the relationship. Maybe someday. Not yet. My mom asked me if I ever got closure, if I wished I'd confronted her, demanded answers, made her explain herself. I told her I got all the closure I needed from her own words. She'd already explained herself, thoroughly, honestly, in the one place she thought was private. I didn't need her carefully crafted lies delivered to my face. I had her unfiltered truth, and that was enough. Last night, I was cooking dinner in my new kitchen, windows open, music playing, and I realized I was happy. Not just okay, not just surviving, but actually happy. Lighter. Free. The apartment felt full instead of empty. My life felt like mine again. I used to think that 4 years together meant something permanent, that time invested demanded more time, that walking away from that much history was wasteful. Now I understand that staying would have been the real waste. She gave me an exit, probably without meaning to, and I took it. Best decision I've made. If there's anything I want people to take from this story, it's this. Trust your instincts, value yourself enough to leave when someone shows you who they really are, and understand that closure isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you create for yourself. I didn't need her confession or her apology or her explanation. I needed to trust what I'd seen and act accordingly. And I did. 3 days after I left, she walked into that empty apartment screaming my name. But I was already gone, already building something new, already moving forward. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say to someone is nothing at all. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply leave and mean it. I meant it, and I'm better for it. If you'd like to see more stories like this, a gentle tap on the subscribe and hype button would mean the world to us. Please subscribe and press the hype button. Thanks in advance.